In the previous lecture, we learned about width and height. In this lecture, we're going to learn about margin and padding, part 1. These properties are basically spaces between elements. They work very similar, and they also take CSS units as values. But each of them have their own area to control. Margins affect the areas outside the borders, and paddings affect areas inside the border. So we're going to start with the margin. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to add a div. I'm going to type this div element will be used for margin and padding examples. Okay. Now let's go to our CSS file and add div. And the first thing I want to do, I'm gonna add a borders. 1 pixels solid and red. Okay, let's save it and go to the browser. Okay, you can see the border has been added there. So remember that the margin will affect the area outside the border, and the padding will affect the area inside the border. Okay, so let's come back to our CSS file. Okay, I'm gonna add a space to the top area, and for that, we type margin top. Okay, and then I'm gonna set it to 50 pixels. Save it. And you can see a margin of 50 pixels has been added to the top. Now let's add a space to the right side. We're gonna do the same thing. Margin, but instead of a top, it's gonna be right. And on this side, I'm gonna add 150 pixels. Save it and come to the browser. And the space has been added to the right side. Let's go back and let's add a margin to the bottom. Oh, but before we do that, I'm gonna create another element here right underneath. I'm gonna create a span. I'm gonna say this span element is created to help our examples. Oh my god. Okay. Let's go to the browser. Okay, there it is. Now we're gonna add a space on the bottom in our CSS file. We're gonna do the same thing again, but we're gonna add bottom. And I'm gonna go 300. I'm gonna go to 300 pixels. Save it. Refresh. And you can see a big space has been added to the bottom side. Okay, and the last one is gonna be on the left side. And on this one, I'm just gonna add, well, maybe just 50 pixels too. Refresh. And there it is. And there it is. Now, this is just one way of adding spaces. Okay, so I'm gonna remove all this. Well, I'm actually gonna comment it out. And this is the other way. Just margin. it takes from 1 all the way to 4. It takes 1, 2, 3, and 4 values. Whatever number of value you want to add, it has to be clockwise. Okay. For example, on this other way, the top one is the first one. Then the right one will be the second value. The bottom one will be the third value, and the fourth one, which is the last one, will be the last value. So it has to be clockwise. But there's ways that you can, target different spaces. Doesn't have to be all 4 values, but we're gonna go one by one right now. So the first value, if you just want to add spaces to all sides, the same length, then just, let's say 100, we can just add one value, and with 100 pixels, let's save it. And that should add 100 pixels to all sides. Now, if you want to target the top and bottom to have different margins than the right and left, then it'll take 2 values. We can do it this way. 200 pixels. So the first value is going to be for top and bottom. The second value is going to be for right and left side. Okay, now let's refresh. Okay, so the top and bottom has 100. The right and left has space of 200 pixels. Okay, now if you want to target each side individually, then we can add, let's say, a third value, which is going to be 30 pixels, and then 500 pixels. And again, the first value is for the top, the second value is for the right, the third value is for the bottom, and the left the last one is for the left side. Okay, let's save it. And there it is. The one that has the most space added is the left side. Okay. Now, if you want to just add, let's say, if you just want to add to the left and right, but don't want any space added to the top and bottom, then you can just, can I get rid of these two? Since we don't want to add spaces to the top and bottom one, so then we got to target the first value. So I'm going to set this to 0. That's it. And the second value is right and left. Let's check it out. And there it is. Top and bottom don't have any space. Only the right and left. And the same thing for left and right. If you want to add 100 pixels to top and bottom, and then 0 for right and left. Okay, you see that? You see the differences there? Okay, and you can also just set the whole margin to 0, and there will be no spaces at all. Okay, and with if you want to just kind of like remove spaces from, let's say just for one side, and let's say the bottom one, I'm going to set the top to 100%, then 200% right. Then the bottom one is going to be the third value, right? So I'm going to set it to 0, and then the left one, I'm going to set it to 50%. Let's save it. Okay, so spaces has been added to top, right, and left, except the bottom one. You can also set the margin to auto. Okay, let's say if you want to set this to float or to be centered, the div, then you can set this to auto. Okay, but it won't work. The reason being, because we need to add width, and I'm gonna set the width to, let's say, 500 pixels. Okay. As soon as I do that, then you're gonna see that the element will be positioned in the middle. And there it is. It's positioned in the middle. Okay. However, if you want to add just space to the top and bottom, but have spaces evenly on the right and left sides, then just add whatever length you want to add to the top and bottom. I'm gonna add just 50 pixels, and that should do it. Okay, there it is. That is it for this lecture. In the next lecture, we're gonna continue with the margin and padding, part 2.